Chris Carpenter finally got a move, and Greg Bros could be our second Wonder Kid. Let's dive in. As you can see, my friends, it's June 30th of 2031. We are now at the end of year 8. All right, we're going to go straight to it. It's going to be Chris Carpenter, who he's on loan from Heidenheim. Oh, dear. I think Chris's career is toast. I don't think we need to spend much time here. I'm not even going to bother moving the camera. He moves on a free to Heidenheim. He gets 1 cup substitute appearance, 5 international appearances. Chris is loving international life. I wonder if San Marino pays anything for you to come play for them. He does a 6.7 in that cup, and now 31/32. So they've already said, yeah, we're going to loan you out to Paderborn for the upcoming season. Okay, his contract that he originally signed last year, exactly a year minus a day ago, they gave him a 5-year deal. That is wild. A 5-year deal on 21 grand a week with a 425,000 loyalty bonus. I'm just like processing here. I'm sorry. And then they've loaned him out to Paderborn for 14,000 a week with an optional future fee of 150 grand. I'm so confused. So is this just like Heidenheim trying to make a profit? But if they're trying to make a profit, then the 425,000 euro loyalty bonus seems like a bad idea. If you're going to then sell him for 150 grand at the end of the contract, that is crazy talk. 1 cup start, and then they've loaned him out. Obviously, from a development standpoint, not going to see a whole lot. I guess let's go look at the international. Maybe. Again, Chris is, I think, the only player we've had thus far that is a top player on the international stage for their country. We'll check on CDB. You would surely think that CDB's on that list now. Maybe I've just missed it. Okay, for Chris, he does play in pretty much every game in 2030 in the second half of the year. A 6.6 against Andorra and a draw. Go on, San Marino, picking up points. A 6.7 and a loss to Malta. But Chris played well. Then they come back and they beat Malta in the back-to-back like a week later. He does a 6.4. The keeper does a 6.1, but they get the win, so it doesn't matter. And then they take on Andorra. He plays again, 6.8 with a yellow card and a loss, 2-0. And then in a friendly against Gibraltar, he does an 8.0. Look at that. We've got to look at this because everybody else played quite poorly. The goal scorer has a 6.9. What did Chris do to earn an 8.0? It must have been the assist for the goal. It must have just been a worldy of an assist. He has 1 key pass. He gets the player of the match, and it's an assist. I don't think we could see it, though. Yeah, it's been too long in the save, so the stats aren't there. But he does something from left fullback to connect with Giardi to connect with Nani up top to smack home the goal, and it was that good. So, something. Heading into 2031, it gets worse. It's Euro qualifiers. Chris starts and does a 5.5 against Greece and gets a red card, straight red, not a double yellow, straight red in the 63rd minute, which then means he misses the game against Hungary. He also does not participate against Croatia, nor does he participate against Luxembourg. So I don't know if it was one of those was really bad to where he's missing 3 games, or I'm not sure how that works on the international stage, but maybe he falls out of favor, maybe he got hurt, I don't know. They pick up another double yellow red in the game against Luxembourg. So a lot of emotions and upsettedness in San Marino and their 4 losses into Euro qualifying. So that's pretty much done. Speaking of injuries, he doesn't have any major injuries. I just noticed that's not great. It says he's with Paderborn's under 19s. 14 grand? You're not going to pay 14 grand in loan fee to put a guy who's 24 in your under 19s. What is up with that? What is up with that? Paderborn? They just got relegated from the Bundesliga, so maybe I don't know. Let's move on. Next up, let's go take a look at James, who was at Benfica, and I think Mithrek had left a comment that said, I'm competing with a bunch of number 10s here. Yeah. But he's moved, my friends. It's on loan, but he's moved to, of course, it's a French club. Rennes, I think, is what we're going to go with here. He moves on loan from Benfica in September of the last season. So it's just until today in the save. So it's a season-long loan with an optional future fee of 14.75 million, but they've not activated it yet. So seems that that's probably not going to happen. He has a year left on his contract with Benfica on 71 grand a week. That is interesting. So, well, obviously they could extend him for a year, but let's go take a look at his playing time. Yes, my friends, he gets 28 starts and a sub, 6.8, couple goals and an assist, gets 4 international starts, so he's still in the mix there, 665. Not as great, and then gets some cup starts. So at least he got playing time. I mean, that is a significant jump if you count, which you shouldn't, but if you count it this way, 140. I'm not so sure about that math, but maybe it's showing all of the appearances all together. But to go from having, just looking at this screen, 2, 7, 2, 8, 2, 12, 29 total league appearances in League 1, which is a good level, right? Let's see what Rim, how did they do last year? They finished 6th, which seems fine, right? Like, that seems like a good level to be at. He's playing under Oswald Tanschel, and he played as the 10, as a regular starter, and was delighted. Of course he was. He's finally playing in the game. Yay! No major injuries. He pulls a back muscle in January for 12 days, but like, maybe that explains a little bit of not getting over the 30 appearances kind of hump there in Ligue 1. He also had some stuff, or he had one thing in December, but nothing major. So he's stayed relatively injury-free. Value up to 12 to 36 million. Kind of a interesting swing there. It'll be interesting now. Let's take a look at Benfica's squad first. Nope, sorry, that's not that. Okay, it looks like Benfica right now are playing with a 4-3-3. They don't even have a spot for a 10. Not ideal if you're James, so maybe they decide to move him on. They've got still Curtis Jones on loan, or I guess he's transferring in or out. He's joining, okay? He came in on loan, now he's joining. Sancho, Fabio Vieira. I mean, there's a lot of guys. Oh boy, I'm in the middle. There's a lot of guys for him to be juggling with. Diogo Jota's there. That's so gutting. But not exactly a place right now under Mikel. Tends to like a 4-3-3. So I think that's leaning towards James is probably leaving Benfica. If they play a 4-3-3, and again, he can play in like actual midfield, but he shines as a 10 with, I mean, you can see the attributes there. That's fine. I've stopped posting those to Patreon, by the way, because like, I kind of feel like we kind of have maxed out where the biggest changes are going to be, I guess, maybe. So in case you're wondering, and I've missed the attribute analysis every time. But I don't know. I think that means he's most likely going to move. If you're Benfica, right? Like, you paid 1.4 million forever ago. You talk about pure profit. You could sell a guy for 10 million. I think he goes. I don't necessarily think Rem might pay for him. If we go to the transfer history, they spent 2.5 million last year and sold 27 million. Prior to that, they did spend 27 million. So maybe, but it seems likely that he needs to move to a club that plays with a 10. Hopping into the international, James does get the start against Slovenia in the World Cup, so congrats. He does a 6.6, but they lost 3-0. And the 3 goals came in the 77th minute or later, so your hope is there for 76 minutes, and then it kind of falls apart. Nobody played well, really, so wasn't just like James's fault or something like that, and he played all right. Against Iran, comes back, plays a 7.2. They smash him 3-0. That's a friendly. And then they play a friendly against Greece. He does a 6.5 there. And then New Zealand, he does a 6.3. Ooh. At least he's starting. That's interesting to me. If we go look to the national team setup, they're playing a 4-4-2, and he's playing the left of the middle 2 midfielders. Interesting. So we'll have to see kind of how that turns out. But look, he's starting in those games, so has he kind of started to break through there? Friendlies versus, I don't know, maybe the round of 16 thing was exhaustion for somebody else, but he's in the mix, and I think that's positive. I do think he needs a move to a club that plays with a 10, so we'll see how that turns out. All right, let's go check on CDB. Still with AC Milan, still on 500 grand a week, still got 3 years left on his contract. Just sit back and enjoy what we are looking at here. That is unbelievable attributes. Value hasn't really changed. He's played a bunch. He's wanted. Ooh, Man City. Okay. Going back to his history here, 30 starts, 7.29. So a little bit of a drop off compared to last season. Obviously, goal production is way down from 9 to 2. His assists are down just a little bit from 12 to 10, but that's, whatever. Only gets 1 cup start, and they do a 6.3. Did they get knocked out in like the first round of the Coppa Italia? We'll take a look. Continental, he does 14 starts. So AC Milan made a Champions League run. Or no. Is this the season they were in the Conference League? I don't remember. And it's 9 international. Let's go take a look at what AC Milan did. I don't know who I was thinking of. It's definitely the Champions League. They definitely go all the way to the semifinal against Arsenal, but end up losing 1-0 on aggregate. The second leg he does a 7.6. The first leg he does a 7.3. And the Coppa Italia, they don't join the Coppa Italia until the third round. It took them extra time to get past Palermo, and then they lost to Napoli 1-0, and that's where CDB does his 6.3. I don't think he participated in the third round game. Nope, sure didn't. That's probably because there was games around it that he was playing in the league, and they were like, it's Palermo who are in Serie B, I think. And they had Champions League, and it's like, well, we could probably get past them. It took a little bit, but they eventually did get past them. Milan do bounce back, but not enough. They go to second in the league, but they've closed the gap a little bit. They're 10 points now off, but it's Juve this time. Inter Milan dropped from first on 92 points last season to third on 77. So AC Milan still in the mix with CDB there. They now have Julian Nagelsmann as their manager. He joined 18 days after we saw last episode. So that's interesting. So De Zerbi leaves. Where does De Zerbi go? Man City. Aha! So De Zerbi says, I'm going to go to Man City and I'm going to call my buddy CDB. Now we know what's going on. It looks like AC Milan's playing a 5-2-3, and CDB is one of the two DMs. And he's satisfied. Doesn't say he's delighted or happy, he's satisfied. So we'll have to see, is he playing some sort of like segundo volante? Or maybe just a straight deep line playmaker? I mean, it says unknown here, but they are ordered this way, so I'm thinking this is kind of how he's being utilized, most likely. That would maybe explain as well if, I think under De Zerbi he was playing more forward, so maybe that would explain the less goals and slightly less assists. He does pick up his first double-digit number of days injury in like 3 years. It's a back strain for 3 weeks, but, you know, nothing crazy. Okay, I was right. CDB he's not even the top player, but he's one of the top players for Sweden. Sweden under Valverde, who has them playing in a 4-2-3-1, and CDB is the right DM. It's not looking good in the Nations League for Sweden. So they lose to Portugal. CDB does a 7.0. Their keeper comes off with an injury, and another player comes off with an injury. Not looking good, and a loss 3-0. They bounce back against Austria. CDB on a 6.4. Isak with a goal. Gyökeres with a goal, so they somehow sneak past there. Germany, this is where he would have gotten that injury. He does a 6.6 and then gets injured for 3 weeks, so he misses the game against Austria, which is a draw. Comes back against Portugal, does a 6.6 again, but there are worse. The keeper does a 4.9. Let's just look at these ratings. 4.9, 6.0, 6.0, 6.1, 6.2, 5.8. Wow. Okay. And against Germany in a draw, he does a 7.0. Gee, I can't believe some of those ratings. The goalkeeper ratings in this experiment have been wild to me. And then in the Euro qualifiers, CDB does a 7.7 and a smashing win 3-1 over Malta. They beat the Netherlands 3-0. You could argue better than against Malta. He does a 6.9. Not many people play. That's interesting. Like, they kind of went with like, this is our squad and we're not going to rotate in any players. They smashed Scotland 3-0 on a 7.8 for CDB. And then in Bosnia and Herzegovina, he does a 6.2, but they win because of the 4th minute goal. So it's interesting. It seems like, I think CDB left a comment recently, so like, maybe he just doesn't like the big games. Maybe, but you played the Netherlands and did all right, did a 6.9, but then Scotland 7.8. So maybe it depends on the level that you're playing against. But again, when you look at the guy's attributes, like, yikes. You would think maybe it's just how he's being used, right? We'll give him the benefit of that out there. I think we'll leave it there with CDB. He is wanted by Man City, who, if anybody's going to have the money to spend 116 to 347 million euros on a player, maybe it's them under his former manager. We'll see what happens next time. That's like, you kind of go like, oh, well, the Wonderkids, like, he's cooking, man. He's cooking. But like, he's 24. Is he about to make another jump and like sign a 7-year deal? Is he going to go to Chelsea? I don't know. We'll find out. Let's go see how things are at Real Madrid with Gregory Bros. Okay. He didn't play. He didn't play. Oh, no. He didn't play. He's getting paid, but he's not playing. 3 starts, 2 subs in the league on a 6.93. 3 cup starts, a couple of continental things, 8 international appearances, and he did all right in those. 7-1. What is happening with Ireland? This is Wild. But not really playing. I wonder is he still listed as regular starter? Yes, and he's still listed as concerned. He's not even on the subs bench. He's going, you know what? I got paid to make this move. Oops. I'm not really playing. And you would start to wonder, is that going to start to impact his international career? But not yet. Now, he is wanted by Spurs, but only kind of, if other targets don't work out. He's still got 3 years on that contract. Minimum fee release clause of $312 million. I don't think anybody's going to pay that for Greg. I know that's like a negotiating thing in Spain, but as you do. Had the flu. Oh, May of like a month ago was not great for him. He got the flu. He was out for a week, and then a sports hernia, and he's out for 4 weeks. But really, that's at the end of the season. So all the other things throughout the season where he's not playing are not great. Really. Maybe the highlight is that he starts in the Copa del Rey final against Almeria, and they win, and he does a 7.5. They get knocked out by Bayern Munich in the Champions League round of 16, and we don't need to go see all the, specific places that he played. Juan Carlos Mandia is the manager and still in charge, so it's not like there's been a difference there. He's just not as good as some of the other guys making €1 million a week. Strangely enough, Greg, who's at Real Madrid, is not listed as a top player for Ireland. Okay. Robbie Keane is the manager. He joined in August. Oh dear, what does that mean? They're playing a 4-2-3-1. Greg's not on the list. Why is Greg not on the list? Okay, it's that they just had 2 games in June, and he's been out with those injuries. So he had the flu, and then, okay, he's out for the entire month of May, so he's not ready to come back and play in, these Euro qualifiers. Because I was like, wait a minute, new manager, not favored, what's going on? He did play in a friendly against Ecuador, did a 6.4 and a loss there. And he did start into an 8.7 against Kosovo. Get in, son. 8.7. Did he provide both assists? He did provide both assists. Not bad. Anytime you see something like that, you go like, something must have happened there. Yeah. 8.7, both assists. Not bad. And then going back to last season, going all the way back to the World Cup, he doesn't start or play against Uruguay, and he starts in a loss to the Netherlands. It did take until the 96th minute, so extra time, and it's an own goal. But he only does a 6.3, but really the entire squad kind of just played all right. But, that's gutting. What a way to go out, an own goal. Then back into the Nations League group, Nations League B. Yeah, the second tier of the Nations League stuff. So he does a 6.6 against Turkey. He does a 6.5 against Israel. He does a 7.8 against Albania. Evan Ferguson getting a brace there. I wonder if there was a connection there from an assist standpoint. 7.1 against Israel. 6.5 against Turkey. And a 6.5 against Albania. They end, I guess, in the Nations League group stage as they're staying. They're not going up or down, which probably makes sense. Turkey looks quite good. 6 points clear of everybody else in the group stage. And we already looked at the part after that. So the big question for next episode is, does Greg get a move? Does he go to Spurs? Do they loan him out someplace? Or does, 99,000 euros a week, is that just like pocket change that you find in the couch for Real Madrid? Greg needs to play. I'm a little worried about that now, but we'll see. All right, going back to what I'm presuming is Italy, it's Gustav Farkas, who is still at Juve. Value 40 to 119 million. How is that possible? Did he suddenly start playing? Ooh, he got 10 starts. I'll move myself here. 10 starts, 4 subs, 6-6-7. Not great, not great. Cup played 6 continental starts as well, got some international, but I mean, he has 1 more total appearance in league play than he did the previous season, but he's got 4 more starts. So is that better? I'm not real sure. He's getting in the mix. I mean, obviously last year he only had 1 start and 1 sub in continental Europe, and now he's gotten 6 and 1. So he's in the mix there. And he, has 9 international starts, which he has already been in the mix there. So the attribute ratings up top here don't leave you feeling great, but he's also really not played a bunch. So Are they just like easing him in as much as you could possibly ease a center back in that's 24 and a half years old? And lest we forget, this is title winning Juve. It is showing him currently as the starting left center back. Not sure if that's entirely true, but he is listed as a squad player. If we just list them by center backs here, he's got Gatti, who's on the right as an important player, Bremer, who's an important player, whose contract is up today and is 34. So maybe that explains some of the moves here. You got Mats Weifer. I probably mispronounced that. I apologize. He's got a year left and is surplus to requirement, so they're kicking him to the curb. This could be okay. Wait, there's a breakthrough prospect. Before we get too excited, there it appears you got Eric Garcia, Gustav, and Gatti as like potential starting center backs. So is this the beginning for Gustav of like stepping into Bremer's shoes? If we go back and look at the schedule, I'm curious if that, the 10, was it more at the end of the season? Last game of the season was a 6.1. Oof. Before that, he does a 6.9. Before that, he does a 7.3. Before that, he does a 6.7. So, like, he plays in the last 4 games of the season in the league. Bremer goes off with an injury in the game before that in the Europa Conference League. They lost to Villarreal. Okay. Bremer was playing before that. Yeah, so I wonder if it was Bremer finally picked up an injury, back strain for 3 weeks, and that gave Gustav a chance. That doesn't exactly still fill me with confidence. It's like, well, we played you because you're the next guy up. And I guess Bremer is leaving, but that doesn't necessarily mean they see Gustav as the guy either. And his ratings would indicate he's maybe not ready. And just kind of looking at the schedule here, also looks like he played in like the earlier games of the Europa Conference League, like when you're probably expecting to do a little bit better against that level of competition. So you start Gustav in that back line because you've got a lot of other league games and the Coppa Italia and stuff like that. But then as they kind of move through into the later phases, he's not starting, right? So it's back to Gatti and Bremer against Dynamo Batumi. And then he does start against Grasshoppers on an 8.0. Not bad. How did he get an 8.0? He got the assist for the winning goal, or the drawing goal, I should say. But after that, it kind of falls off. All right, internationally, he plays and starts against Wales on a 6.6 in a win. He does a 6.7 against Czechia. He does a 6.8 against Croatia in a loss. 7.0 in a loss to Czechia again. 6.9 in a win against Wales. And a 6.9 in a loss to Croatia. So he's playing all right. The back line, mixed bag, right? Against Croatia in this game, Kirkaz gets sent off in the 44th minute for 2 yellows. Wowzers. That's unbelievable. The keeper does a 6.3. The left back or right back does the 6.1. So I thought Hungary was pretty good, to be honest with you, but it not thus far, not here, not going so well. But Gustav is, it looks like the starting probably left center back there. Against Luxembourg, he does a 6.9. He does a 6.4 against San Marino in a win. Ooh. And then they lose to Greece, and he does a 6.9. Euro qualifiers, they find themselves currently on the outside looking in 3rd place, but they're just 1 point off. But you never know. Kind of interesting. Farkas is the 2nd most valuable player on the Hungarian national team. Kirkez is 1st. 3rd, and a very close 3rd, is Istvan Nemeth, a goalkeeper who obviously is a new gen, regen, depending on how you like to say it. But ooh, look at that 20 determination. 1 flare. So I'm a little disappointed for Gustav, but there is that glimmer of hope that Bremer is leaving, and maybe he steps up to be the guy, but there's also the risk that Juve go out and buy somebody else, and he's stuck being the squad player guy and not getting enough minutes. I'm just kind of checking. They don't have any transfers lined up like that are happening already that would be showing up. So maybe he's got a shot to be the starting left center back there for Juve. One last little nugget here. He wants to win a trophy. He's excited about the team's chance at the Coppa Italia. He's enjoying being at the club down here. And then the media says deserves a place in the squad. So, next, let's go check on Chase, who... Okay, I thought it was a permanent move. It's not a permanent move. He's moved, though. He's on loan. He's on loan to Stuttgart, my friends. Did he play? It says 9 appearances, 14 conceded. Short-term loan? Yes, short-term loan, February 3rd. So, but there's more than 9 league games between February 3rd and the end of the season in the Bundesliga. We'll see what happened there. They're paying most of his wages, actually, so, and with a 2.9 million optional future fee. Now, obviously, that would be, they'd have to trigger that today, so it seems unlikely that that's what's going to happen for Chase. Yeah. 9 total appearances, 3 clean sheets. That means in 6 games, they gave up 14 goals. That's like more than 2 a game, obviously, on a 6.49. He gets a continental start on a 6.2, and he gets 8 international on a 6.71. International's doing a lot of work for some of these guys. Okay, I had to do a little bit of digging to understand what happened here, and this is interesting. So on February 10th, they sent John Polskamp to Radnicki on a deal that would be permanent at the end of the season. So that's either a loan with an obligation to buy, or if he plays 15 matches, but he's moving on, and I think he was the backup. And so they bring in Chase a week before then, and Chase is on a first choice contract. At least that's what they told PSG. But they still have Matvey Safonov, who's also first choice and is concerned. And his contract is up in 2 years. If you compare the two of them, he's better than Chase, except in the air. Chase has got him soundly beat there, but also Chase is 8 years younger than him. So when we look at the schedule, Chase gets signed after this game against Eintracht Frankfurt. Safonov starts in the 3 games after that. Against Hearts in the Europa League knockout playoff, Chase comes in and does a 6.2, but they won. Ooh. Safonov comes back for the next league game. And the one after that against Werder Bremen, he does a 5.5. Not Chase, Safonov, to be clear. Then he plays in the round of 16, Safonov does. Chase comes in against Wolfsburg in the league on a 6.0. Safonov back for Bayern Munich. Chase does a 4.8. I'm telling you, some of these ratings are wild for goalkeepers. In a loss to Leipzig, but then he does an 8.0 against Hoffenheim. He does a 6.7 against Köln. He does a 6.9 against Paderborn. A 7.2 against Freiburg, a 6.7 against Heidenheim, a 5.4 against Borussia Mönchengladbach, and a 4-1 loss, and then a 6.7 and a draw against Bochum. All that to show you that, essentially, once he comes back in on March 22nd, and I checked, Safonov did not have an injury, he plays out the remaining of the season. So that's really interesting, because you go like, well, if they wanted him, they would have activated that clause by now, right? I mean, maybe it's an AI thing, they just do it on the last day. But I'm also thinking, like, maybe not. But then why would you do that if you're just going to make your existing goalkeeper mad? So that's a very weird situation that's going on with Chase. The good news is Chase played. I haven't taken a chance to take a look at if his attributes significantly changed or not. At this point, I kind of think it doesn't really matter. Maybe it does for goalkeepers. Maybe they bloom a little bit later here in FM. What matters, though, is he's got that contract. He signed a contract in October. That's good until 2035. He's got another 4 years. So he took an extension with PSG, and maybe as part of that, they agreed to loan him out. Internationally, he does start the 3 games in the autumn of 2030. He does a 5.9 against Uruguay. Not great. A 7.2 and a win against Turkmenistan, and a 6.2, and he picks up a knock against Paraguay. We'll take a look at what that knock might have been here in a little bit. Then Asian Cup Group E, he does a 6.1 against Saudi Arabia. Doesn't play after that. That's interesting. It was because PSG was like, hey, we're working on a deal, like, don't play him, or did he get an injury? No, not at that time. So why would he start the first game and then wasn't even involved? He's on the bench but doesn't play against Iran, but he's not even showing here in these matches, I don't think. Moving past that, he does a 6.0 against Argentina in a friendly, a 7.7 against Lebanon, an 8.1 as a keeper against Syria. Did he get an assist? I gotta look. Did he get an assist, or is it just that he was stopping all kinds of stuff, right? 89% pass completion, 5 clearances. He must have just done really well. Wow, 8.1 for a keeper. That's something else. And then a 6.5 in a win over Venezuela. I want to go back to this. Chase is currently listed as the starter for Australia, but Pav Lesic is still in the mix. I've also checked he wasn't injured, so I'm not sure, when Chase was playing. So it's just very weird. That's where we're gonna leave Chase. I'm really actually quite pleased with this episode because there's a lot of randomness where you're like, oh, a move, kind of, but like maybe playing, maybe not playing. Will they convert him? Again, I think if Stuttgart was going to convert him, they would have done it by now. It just doesn't make any sense why you'd make the keeper that you're then going to use next season by not converting Chase mad by not playing him at the end of the season. So I'm not sure what's up with that. Last but not least, we'll check on Marcus. He's still with Mainz, but he's got a bid. He's finally unhappy, and he's wanted. Who's the bid from? Oh! What a way to end the episode. Let's go, folks. Marcus has bids in from Borussia Mönchengladbach, Real San Sebastian, and Leicester City in the championship. I would argue 2 of those look better than 1 of those, unless Leicester is getting promoted or something like that. No, they just got relegated. But obviously he has all sorts of interests here that you can see with all the other teams that are would love to get him in. That probably means he didn't play. Let's go see. I'm wrong. He played 30 starts with 9 goals on a 6-7-3 in the Bundesliga. Now they got relegated, clearly. You can see up top, Zweite Bundesliga for the upcoming season. Maybe that's why he's like, I'm out. Maybe they had some sort of release clause. We'll see. He gets 8 international starts, 2 cup starts. It doesn't matter. He's gotten 30 starts. None of this last season, 2 starts, 17 subs. 30 actual starts, no subs. He finally breaks through. You know, a goal every, 3.5 games? Something like that. But on a team that gets relegated, is that all right? Ish? I think some of his attributes may have changed. Somebody in the comments can tell me if that's right or not. He's got some nice physicals. Again, the technical probably has stagnated because he hasn't been playing. So when you see, the finishing's at 13, but like he's quite pacey and agile. So there's that. Worth 5 to 15 million, contract through 2034, which is something he signed. Okay, that was the one from last year. I thought it said 2031. I'm like, wait, he just got signed, but they're interested. What's happening? He does have an active relegation release clause, but none of the bids are of that value. So I wonder if Mainz have said he's unhappy. It's time for him to go. Looked like they were playing a 4-4-2 with Marcus up top, along with Myron van Brederode. Easy for me to say. How many goals did that guy get? Just the 3 with only 4 starts. And okay, he came in mid-season, to be fair. But Marcus appears to have scored a lot of the goals for the squad. That's good, yeah. That's good. Well, now I'm wondering, how many goals did Mainz actually score? Might score 38 goals in league play. Marcus scores 9. That leaves 29 for the rest of the squad. And I've just realized I'm still in the middle. Nelson is still here. He picks up 11 goals. But like, okay, we just look at it that way, right? So it must have been Marcus and Nelson up top because Nelson's got 34 starts. So they're playing a 4-4-2, but Marcus has finally worked his way into the starting rotation. That is what I think makes sense. There are some other guys here on regular starter, minutes, but they weren't getting it. So it makes sense that Nelson and Marcus then were actually starting up top. And that's where a good chunk of the goals came from. It wasn't enough to keep them up, so they get relegated. And now everybody's wanted. Oh my goodness, but he's wanted. He's also unhappy. He wants to leave. They've got bids in. You'd think that might mean it's time for Marcus to go. Now, he doesn't play at all in the autumn of 2030. I believe that's because this is the AFF Championship group, and I think this is for players actually based in Asia or Southeast Asia or something like that. Somebody left a comment once, so he's not involved there. But coming into 2031, getting into friendlies, and then the Asian Cup, he does play. So he does a 7.5 of the brace against Turkmenistan. That's the second time we've seen Turkmenistan today. He does a brace against Thailand in the group stage in a win. Against Japan, they get wrecked 3-0. Marcus does a 6.4, but no one played well except for Ivar Jenner. Against India, they lose. Marcus does a 6.6. And against South Korea, he does a 6.8, also in a loss. So Asian Cup second round, they get knocked out. Then it's just friendlies. He gets a hat trick against Macau, scores 1 and a 7.4 against Brunei, and then does a 6.0 in a win against Singapore. So the values again up here at the top, my friends. I don't think CDB's value is going to go down anytime soon, but interestingly enough, Gustav's has jumped up there to that 40 million at the bottom end. Greg down to 23 million. I think it's down to 23 million, but he's third. Such an interesting spread here. We've got clubs in Italy, Spain, France, Germany, 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 different levels of Germany. But again, emergency backup agreed playing time. But I think that's got to be for PSG. Well, hold on a second. Hold on a second. Let's go back here. Yes, Chase is now listed as an emergency backup for the first team, not for Stuttgart. The whole Stuttgart thing has kind of thrown me off with Chase. So we need to see how that turns out. I'm actually, because you start going like, oh, I don't know about some of these careers. I think Chris is toast. How Chris's value is better than Chase's is still beyond me, because Chase at least played this past season, at least half of the season. But I wasn't expecting, I think, Marcus to have bids in or James to have moved, and for Gustav to have gotten a little bit more playing time. I guess that might be okay. But I'm finding this very interesting. If you are as well, make sure you hit that like button, my friends, and watch the whole video. But if you're here, you've done that. So thanks, and we'll see you next time.